President Trump hitting back over a tell-all book, branding the author a total loser, calling himself a genius.
I went to the best colleges, so I was a very excellent student, came out, made billions and billions of dollars, ran for president one time and won. And then I hear this guy that does not know me. I did a quick interview with him a long time ago, but I don't know this man. I guess Sloppy Steve brought him into the White House quite a bit. That's why Sloppy Steve is now looking for a job.
President Trump and Republicans talking immigration reform at their Camp David retreat.
A major expansion of border security.
We want the wall. The wall's going to happen or we're not going to have DACA.
Republicans say they want to talk, or they did discuss strategy on budgeting they want to push and how they want to negotiate a deal with Democrats.
We hope that 2018 will be a year of more bipartisan cooperation.
We've got issues such as infrastructure that we want to attend to. We want to make sure that Secretary Mattis and our military have the tools and the resources that they need to keep us safe.
Well, this is a wonderful song. It's not about any of us. That's for sure.
Yeah, this is not my theme song.
Now,
maybe one day. Maybe
Wait a minute. I might be.
Lisa Booth.
Wait, Sean McGrane, the executive producer of the show, and I bought Powerball tickets.
So maybe the song.
I actually might be a billionaire.
Well, there you go.
No way.
I didn't wait. I'm being told I didn't win.
You're just $10
Drinks
poor.
on you.
Boy, that's a tough way to start the day. But fortunately for you at home, you get to start with us, with Pete, Lisa, and I.
At least
That's
we
right.
think it's a fortunate thing. We hope it's a fortunate.
And it's warming up out there.
Yeah, it's a big day today. It's National
That's not
Bobblehead
true.
Day.
It's fake news, actually. I made total
not
fake
warming
news
up at all.
It's not warming up.
Also, there is literally a day for everything.
Of course, I just looked it up.
National-
Yesterday was National Cuddle Up Day. Tomorrow is National Clean Off Your Desk Day.
That's a
Today is
stupid holiday.
National Bobblehead Day and National Tempura Day.
And by the way, I
don't matter at all.
did see on the wires something. I think the lottery, a winning lottery ticket, may have been in New Hampshire. If you guys could check that, and if that was the case, that is certainly a deserved winner because it is nowhere is it colder than up there.
Well, no,
I've never played the lottery before.
I have. Yeah. Why not when it gets high enough? But I would say on the temperature side, I mean, I think
Okay, I guess
President
there's
Trump
news. He
should
wants-
take credit for solving global warming.
Yeah.
And look at how cold it is. That's just another accomplishment that we need to put on the list. Global warming, done.
But
President Trump eradicated it.
That cold weather did not stop President Trump from firing back against fire and fury yesterday as we took you through the 4 hours of the president literally firing back as we were holding this show. And
That's shocking. That doesn't make any sense. No.
He's not a counterpuncher.
And then
That's fake news. All right, I think we have some
At Camp
sound
David
from that.
yesterday.
There we go. Thank you, Pete. Tag team.
I went to the best college. I was a very excellent student, came out, made billions and billions of dollars, went to television, ran for president one time and won. And then I hear this guy that doesn't know me at all, by the way, did not interview me he said he interviewed me for 3 hours in the White House. I consider it a work of fiction. And I think it's a disgrace that somebody's able to have something, do something like that. Just so you understand, there's been no collusion. There's been no crime. I'm not under investigation. When you've done nothing wrong, let's be open. It's making our country look foolish. And this is a country that I don't want looking foolish.
so there you have
It's
it.
true. I mean, look at if the rest of the world is looking at all of this and the spectacle of the palace intrigue, of the gossip columns, they look at it does look foolish from the outside. And this is a president who said, no one else is going to defend me, including most establishment Republicans, so I'm going to defend myself, which is exactly what he's gone out and done.
Well, I think that some of these attacks would be a little bit more potent if it wasn't so painfully obvious what those who hate the president are trying to do. I mean, look, we've had racism, we've had sexism, somehow we've had $100,000 of Facebook ads somehow bought the election for the Russians, which is ridiculous if you've ever worked in politics or know anything about media buying and ad placement. And the fact that $100,000 is literally a joke, and anyone with a nominal amount of money or $100,000 could go out and do that. And then now he's mentally unfit to serve in office. And so, when you ping pong from one of these things to the other, and then the media carries it, the left carries
But
it.
that's an important
and it's just
thing.
so obvious.
I mean, to put in context, this president is unprecedented in so many ways. To
that
have
press
zero
conference you just gave is not something.
And to have zero experience in politics before and now become president of the United States against all odds, we all know the story. But what is also now proving to be unprecedented is the narrative that so many in the media are carrying, that this is an undisciplined man-child that sits in bed eating cheeseburgers But yet, look at the accomplishments he's accomplished in 2017. So we're seeing an unprecedented treatment of an American president as it unfolds. And not everyone in the media, even though I know you love to attack
you read
him.
Maggie Haberman, who I partnered up with once yesterday for the first time ever in my life. You read this news article. It's unbelievable. Mr. Trump's self-absorption, impulsiveness, lack of empathy, obsessive focus on Slack. I mean, this passes as news in the world today, and it's unbelievable. And I think it leads a lot of people. And this is not just President Trump. This is what they've done to Republicans for decades. Remember the Barry Goldwater rule? The American Psychiatric Association built its own rule about analyzing people that you've never met. They did the same thing to Barry Goldwater, same thing to Ronald Reagan, and now even more and worse to President Trump. They can't disagree with his policies. They have to say that he's unstable.
Also, I find it offensive that if you eat cheeseburgers or you like ice cream or chocolate cake, that somehow you're unfit to serve in office, because some of us like to eat healthy.
I had a cheeseburger and cheese fries last night.
I had a cheeseburger yesterday.
Clearly, cheeseburgers upset people in Hollywood as well.
Yeah, well, they're all upset, right?
Along with this book, right? The director, Judd Apatow.
I had to look him up. I didn't know who he was.
I knew who he was, but
he has quite colorful tweets. Let's throw this up. Please shut the expletive up.
Don't say that.
For once in your life, shut the expletive up. We all need one moment of peace, you spoiled, self-involved idiot. Take a nap. Change your sheets. Eat a non-poison Big Mac. There's a cheeseburger. Take a expletive break for a moment. Give us that gift.
That's right.
I hope his thumbs actually aren't hurting.
How about Judd gives us a gift and stop with these stupid
He didn't stop there, by the way.
Twitter messages.
You want to read this?
Oh, okay, I'll read it.
There's another tweet, too.
Well, so he went on, and he said, we all should be filling the offices of our legislators and calling nonstop today demanding this mentally ill president be removed. Not doing so puts lives at risk. If we don't, history will ask, why didn't we act? Thank you, Judd, for
I wonder
trying
if
to
the
save
director
America.
of 40-Year-Old Virgin will be leading the charge, taking on this president and the resistance. I mean, he's made a lot of funny movies that you and I have laughed at and gone to the box office for. But you put up, why is he the exemplar of what should be done to remove? He just wants to remove the president. Apparently, he hasn't read the Constitution.
This is
doesn't
what
understand
Hollywood
any of this.
does.
It's exactly.
They don't understand America. They thumb their nose at the rest of America. They sit on their high horse, act like they're holier than thou, and then we find out that their own house isn't in order. They live in glass houses and they love to throw stones. So I think most of Americans are just tired of hearing from them. And it's just stop it. Stick to what you know. I mean, remember Gwyneth Paltrow? She was like, I'm going to do the the food stamp challenge, and then she ended up eating a steak or something like that. And then it was equal pay that she was on to next. Like, it's just, I think it's a positive thing for Americans to want change, but stop living in glass houses and go out and actually do something. Get your hands dirty. Go out into the communities.
Thankfully, we have the Golden
Globes. And some of them do, but go out in the communities and help people.
Yeah, and if you're going to do something, by the way, if you're following Judd Apatow's advice, the offices to Congress aren't open today, so you're going to waste your time if you dial all day long.
Keep calling,
Just
actually.
But the Golden Globes are coming up, and I'm sure you're going to want to watch. They're going to be very interesting. Email us. Are you waiting with bated breath for the Golden Globes? Will you be watching? Friends@foxnews.com. Do you want to hear more politics from Hollywood? Well, speaking of Hollywood for ugly people, that's what they call Washington, D.C. Literally, Hollywood for ugly people.
I used to work there, so let's be a little...
And I still work there.
Why should we be nice to Washington, D.C.? Why? Why do we have to be the 5 richest counties in America?
Because it's the nation's
they're enriching
capital.
Themselves on the backs of the American taxpayer. Oh, I wish. Thank you, Mr.
But they call
Smith.
Capitol Hill.
Let's go to Washington.
They call Capitol Hill the place for ugly people, which I worked on Capitol Hill for a number of years. So
I just take absolute offense to that, but that's not what we're talking about.
So President Trump yesterday at Camp David laid out what he said time and time again, that if they want a deal on DACA, we are going to get the wall. This is what he said.
The wall's going to happen, or we're not going to have DACA. We want to get rid of chain migration. We need some additional border security. These are great people. We all want DACA to happen, but we also want great security for our country. We have to get rid of the visa lottery. They're not sending us their finest. I think, frankly, the Democrats feel strongly about it, too. I mean, Chuck Schumer, he saw somebody that came in through the lottery system. He saw this man kill 8 people on the West Side Highway. I really think we'll have a lot of Democrat support. I hope so. I believe that Mexico will pay for the wall. We're negotiating NAFTA, but Mexico will pay. In some form, Mexico will pay for the wall.
Now, this is an issue that you need to pay attention for the rest of the 3.5 hours, we're going to talk about this because many of the Democrats, and we're going to go through all of it, supported these immigration initiatives and a law that was passed already that authorized 700 miles of border fence. President Trump has now put a plan forward to basically double that amount. And these Democrats are being, perhaps in many cases, swayed by this book and this narrative that the president is somehow mentally unstable to cut a deal to give these dreamers under DACA some legal status, possibly permanent status to remain in this country. It is an important issue. It is going to play out this week, and we're going to go through it.
But in 2013, these many Senate Democrats voted yes on border security. Look at this long list, 54 of them at the time. But here's just a few examples. You've got Elizabeth Warren, who the president calls Pocahontas. You've got Kristen Gillibrand. You've got Bernie Sanders. You've got crying Chuck Schumer. They voted for a border wall. They also voted in 2006 during George W. Bush's tenure to fund a border wall. And let's not forget that Bill Clinton in 1996 in his State of the Union address, and we're going to play that sound, called for a border wall. So Democrats in 96, in 06, in 2013 voted for, put their money where their mouth was, and backed up a border wall. Now that the President Trump wants one in exchange for legalizing illegals, now they got to resist. Now they can't be a part of it.
And I also think, the Democratic Party is going to have to give a little bit here on what their objectives are on DACA, because the reality is they're in the minority. And if you're President Trump, this is your opportunity to use your leverage as the President of the United States when the issue of immigration is on the table and Congress has to act because they have a March deadline. And so President Trump, if he wants to get the wall done, if he wants to get the RAISE Act done, if he wants to get some of these priorities done, that is his time to really hold Congress's feet to the fire and try to push for those policies.
It's a great point. And as we continue on the show, we're going to keep drilling down into this subject. What kind of deal will happen? Well, we've got a few more headlines we're going to bring to you this morning, and we begin with extreme weather. A bitter cold freeze gripping more than 100 million people from South Carolina to Maine this morning, where temperatures could hit record lows. Tourists tightly bundling up while overlooking the frozen waters of Niagara Falls. Take a look at that. Wow, beautiful. And the bitter Arctic air in the Midwest making the walk down Chicago streets brutal, or pretty much any street you want to walk down today. There could be more snow and ice tonight from the Great Lakes to northern New England before milder temperatures swoop in to thaw us all out. Plus, one lucky person is about $560 million richer after winning the Powerball ticket, as Griff mentioned earlier, in New Hampshire. The winning numbers in Saturday's drawings are 12, 29, 30, 33, 61, and the Powerball 26. No one has yet claimed that prize. Better get to it. The big jackpot comes a day after a winning Mega Millions ticket worth $450 million was sold at this 7-Eleven in Port Richey, Florida. The winner has yet to come forward. So we've got about $1 billion on the table right now. Well, the NFL playoffs kicking off, the Atlanta Falcons shutting down the Rams in Los Angeles, the team never trailing in its 26-13 win. And in Kansas City, the Tennessee Titans erasing an 18-point deficit thanks to their QB. Marcus Mariota's touchdown, he threw it to himself. He almost passed the line of scrimmage, decided to throw it, deflect it back into his own arms. The Titans stunning the hometown Chiefs 22-21. Two more matchups today. First, the Buffalo Bills taking on the Jaguars, then the Carolina Panthers going up against the New Orleans Saints. Some great games today as well. And those are your headlines.
Good job, Pete.
Well, I'll tell you, it was quite a game. I was watching that. But we've got a lot more to talk about. And give us a call here or email us at friends@foxnews.com. If you won that lottery ticket, we want to talk to you. So the media obsessing over the new book, trying to take down President Trump.
Let's start with Fire and Fury.
Fire and Fury.
That bombshell book, Fire and Fury.
This new book is the talk of the town here in Washington.
But why aren't they focusing on his accomplishments? We'll talk a lot about that coming up.
Chevy's raising the bar.
6 cars in one.
I like that.
If you are like those of us here at the podium, you'd like to see America be a right-of-center country. From a right-of-center point of view, 2017 was the most consequential year in the many years that I've been here in Congress.
And he's been there many years. It's been an impressive list of the accomplishments for the GOP and President Trump, but the media can't stop focusing on that anti-Trump book and by extension, attacking the president. Here to react, founder and executive director of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk. Charlie, thanks for being here this morning. So you represent an organization of a lot of young people who, for them, this maybe is the first Republican president they've been exposed to or have supported. Are they obsessing over what the media is obsessing over, the palace intrigue, or are they looking at it saying, hey, some things are finally happening in Washington?
They're looking at this economy and they're seeing an absolute explosion of economic growth. And look, I call this book total garbage tabloid journalism. I mean, this would not even suffice regular editorial standards. And yet you look at what this president has accomplished over the last year. It's absolutely unprecedented. And it makes sense that the media now in this new year is completely ignoring all these accomplishments. They're using this gossip column book to try to create this fake news aura around this White House and the presidency. But what the president has accomplished over the last year to actually deliver results for the American people, the largest middle-class tax cut in American history, opening up our natural resources, the Dow hitting 25,000, over $6 trillion of new wealth created domestically. These are stories the media refuses to tell, not to mention ISIS is nearly completely obliterated in the Middle East, yet they're worried about how many cheeseburgers the president is eating. And you look at how many factual inaccuracies are actually in this book, it's laughable. If this was written about the Obama presidency, the media wouldn't even take two looks at it.
Well, that's it. I mean, you use two words that I don't know that exist that much: editorial standards. I mean, what are their standards other than disparaging this president? Because they would never give into the narrative of a right-wing writer who wrote something about the Obama administration. I mean, does it not continue to call into question what this president has pointed out about the fake news media?
That's right. It's horrible hypocrisy. And look, this is just tabloid type gossip column stuff. Seriously, it's the stuff that you buy when you're checking out at the grocery store, and yet you're seeing it on every major news network. Make no mistake, though, when you start to see the media scramble frenetically over this, that's how you know the president is succeeding. Sure. You see the economy doing well. You see ISIS retreating. You see the middle class incomes going up. That's how you know he's succeeding, because they refuse to tell those stories because they want to ideologically destroy this president and the people around him.
Briefly, Charlie, how important is this next month as it pertains to building the wall and a deal on DACA?
So important, and I hope Congress stands with the president to fulfill his campaign promise to build the wall and actually do what he said they were going to do. And look, I agree with Leader McConnell. I've been very critical with him over the last year, but he's done a very good job to help stand with the president overall. Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Thank you. You got it. Well, it's not shocking that a liberal actress mocked President Trump on Twitter, but why did the Army's official account like her tweet? We'll find out. And President Trump laying out his demands for a so-called DACA deal.
You want the wall. The wall's going to happen, or we're not going to have DACA.
Democrats used to want a wall. Now they're lock, stock, and barrel against it. Will Democrats come to the table to make a deal? We debate it next.
Welcome back. Well, so some quick headlines for you. No gender, no problem. Washington State will soon allow residents to change their sex on birth certificates to a gender-neutral option. The new rules starting January 27th will let people identify as gender X instead of male or female. And no doctor permission is required. Oregon became the first state to enact the rule back in June. And Dunkin' Donuts is scaling back its food and drink menu by 10%. The new simplified menu will debut tomorrow in New England locations before expanding nationwide by mid-March. The chain getting rid of the less popular and more time-consuming items to make smoothies and afternoon sandwiches. President Trump once again laying out his demands for a DACA deal. Take a listen.
Thanks, Lisa. Take a listen to the president yesterday.
We want the wall. The wall's going to happen, or we're not going to have DACA. We want DACA to happen. Everybody, I think I can speak for everybody. We want John Cornyn from Texas. We all want DACA to happen. But we also want great security for our country. So important. We want to stop the drugs from flowing in.
So should Democrats finally come to the negotiating table and make a deal? Here to debate it, host at The Blaze, Lawrence Jones, and Democrat strategist Chuck Rocha. Good morning, gentlemen. Chuck, I want to start with you because you're a Sanders guy. You're a surrogate. Yesterday, the senator issued a statement. I want to put it up and read it for you. Shortly after President Trump was speaking, here's what Senator Sanders said. He said, I am not sure why President Trump wants to shut down the government over a multi-billion-dollar wall that no one wants is not needed and will not be paid for by Mexico. What the American people do want in overwhelming numbers is to provide legal protection to 800,000 Dreamers and a path towards citizenship for them. So, Chuck, I start with you. Why not do a deal? The president said this gives them legal status, and here's what he wants: $18 billion for construction for a wall.
I think because it's really two way different topics, two different subjects. These Dreamers, these young people, these kids came here. They've all had a criminal background check. They all have jobs. We've educated them in our university. 20,000 of them are public school teachers. 10,000 of them serve in our military. This should be a whole separate thing than somebody wanting to build a wall, which we have built in Brownsville and El Paso and other places. As you said on the lead-in, Democrats have voted for walls and we've built walls. If he wants a new wall, I was part of the campaign. I'm waiting for Mexico to build the new wall. We'll probably come to the table on that.
Lawrence, I assume you agree with him.
I disagree with him. Here's the bottom line. There is no deal. The deal is this. Either they get with the program because the president won this election on this principle of building the wall, or they don't get legal status. That's just the bottom line. The American people will not tolerate this president going along with a plan that does not include, first, border security. He would literally destroy his entire movement of Americans that were the forgotten Americans. Look, at the end of the day, I want to be compassionate, although I don't even believe that we should be talking about this DACA issue until we take care of American citizens first. I think we can get to some type of deal, but it only happens if we have border security.
Chuck, I see you shaking your head.
I was shaking my head because America stands for exactly what these Dreamers are. They came here as babies. They went to our university. We've taken our tax dollars and we've educated them. They don't even speak Spanish. So if you want to send them back to a country they don't even belong to.
Well, that's a good point.
Well, I'm not saying send them there. What I'm saying is that we should take care of the issues of the American people first. That means making sure our economy
absolutely, like our public school teacher and our veterans in our army, where these Dreamers are serving at.
Well, let me stop you for 1 second.
Not all of them are serving there. Go ahead.
This fight that's playing out, how much, and Chuck, I'll let you answer this first, how much is this new derogatory portrait of President Trump being painted in Michael Wolff's book, how much of this is playing to hurting this deal, which affects, in both cases, both Dreamers and, of course, the concerns like security of the American people?
Look, I'm not a policy expert. Unlike Lawrence, I do politics for a living. So what this is all about is politics. And in this town in Washington, D.C., they're using this as a pawn. Either the Democrats are using it to get more Democrats elected. Republicans are going to use it to gin up their base. That's what's wrong with our system as a whole. It's our whole political system is to gin up both bases and really not get anything done.
That's a broad brush. Lawrence, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I disagree because the American people sent this president there to do a job, and he campaigned on this. And so this is not just about politics. This is about keeping a word to the American people. Look, at the end of the day, I'm concerned about my community, the black community, about jobs being taken away from. Under this president, we have the lowest unemployment for black folks ever since it's been tracked. And I want to continue that trend. First, we need to take care of the American people, and then we can talk about DACA, we can talk about immigrants, we can talk about all of that. I think it's great to be compassionate, but at the end of the day, the American people want this president to take care of them first.
Well, we'll see what happens. Lawrence Jones, Chuck Rocha, thank you very much for coming on. And, of course, that January 19th deadline hanging out there. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Stay warm.
Be good.
All right, President Trump calling out the media for pushing the Russia collusion story.
I guess the collusion now is dead because everyone found that after a year of study, there's been absolutely no collusion.
Guess who thinks it's a host? Dan Bongino. He'll explain exactly why this is a hoax. And if you don't like that anti-Trump book, Fire and Fury, Amazon doesn't want to know about it. Here's why they're deleting their reviews. We've got that coming up.
Hey, I might be making me a reputation, going my own way, and I can't live it down. Got the
It's your shot of the morning. Sorry, I was dancing. But the president and his cabinet wishing a happy birthday to Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos at Camp David.
Happy birthday. The group taking a moment to celebrate early with a birthday cake for her during their working lunch. DeVos will be turning 60 tomorrow.
May she continue to dismantle Common Core with the fire of 1,000 suns.
Happy birthday.
Absolutely.
Secretary.
Happy birthday. Someone else who would love to devastate Common Core, I believe, I don't want to put words in his mouth, is Dan Bongino, former NYPD officer, former Secret Service agent, and the host of the Dan Bongino Show. Am I correct, Dan?
Oh, gosh. Common Core. It's common in its disaster it's imposed across the country. So, yes.
There you
call.
go. There you go. Well, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Well, yesterday at Camp David, President Trump had a few other things to say. He mentioned amongst this book and the gossip column that it is, he talked about Russian collusion. Take a listen to the president.
We have a plan to prevent terrorism and crime, both here and abroad.
Do things proper. And, you know, I guess the collusion now is dead because everyone found that after a year of study, there's been absolutely no collusion. There has been no collusion between us and the Russians. Now, there has been collusion between Hillary Clinton, the DNC, and the Russians. Unfortunately, you people don't cover that very much. But the only collusion is between Hillary and the Russians and the DNC and the Russians.
Well, I covered it for Fox and Friends, and announcing that the Department of Justice will look into, has opened an investigation, as you know, Dan, into the possible pay-for-play scheme. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, let me show you in about a minute or less what a hoax this whole thing is, this Russian collusion nonsense. So Don Trump Jr. meets with some Russian lawyer, right? They're supposed to exchange some kind of information, which never happens. Don Trump Jr. leaves early from this meeting, and Don Trump Jr., in an act of incredible transparency, puts out his emails about the entire incident on social media, right? Nothing changes hands there at all of value. Mrs. Clinton and Bill Clinton take $500,000, that's actual money, right, from Russian banks and people involved in the sale of our nuclear fuel to a Russian company. And there's all of a sudden the Clintons are whining about an investigation while celebrating this Russian collusion thing? You've got to be kidding me. And guys, one more point on this, too, about this Russian collusion thing that I haven't heard anybody in the media yet, I may be wrong, but mention. I think America needs to prepare itself for the idea that this entire thing was a sting against the Trump team the entire time, and that the dossier was just cover for it. The evidence is all over the place. Just go look at the March 2017 testimony of Jim Comey on Capitol Hill. The answer he gives to Representative Elise Stefanik from New York when asked about why he didn't notify Congress about this counterintelligence investigation against Trump. Look at the look on his face in a panic. I think it's the network is closing in on these guys, and they're really worried right now.
And Dan, how big of a role do you think the dossier played? Because we know that it was shared among the intelligence community. We know that it was shown to President Trump, and subsequently CNN had leaked that meeting. We know that it was shopped around the media as well. Many on Capitol Hill believe it was potentially used to obtain a FISA warrant. So how big of a role do you think it actually played?
Lisa, the timeline tells the whole story here. Listen, I've been the loudest voice here and everywhere else saying I thought the dossier was the biggest story. The fact that fake Russian intel was used to spy on a presidential candidate and president-elect, I was wrong. I think it's the second biggest story. I think the biggest story is, why did the investigation into the Trump team start before the dossier? Remember, Jim Comey acknowledged that the investigation started before the FISA warrant was approved in October.
And so,
what was the FBI doing?
Dan,
what were they looking at Trump for?
Let me jump in there then. Are you saying that what Chairman of the Intel Committee, Devin Nunes, getting these documents finally is going to prove that not only was the dossier, you think we're going to find out from what Nunes is getting, that not only was the dossier the impetus for the investigation, but that it began before that?
Griff, that's exactly what I'm saying. That the dossier gave some kind of legal patina, legal cover to a sting operation against the Trump team that people at the DOJ and the FBI desperately need to go away right now. I'm telling you, March 20th, 2017. Look at Jim Comey's face when he can't answer the question as to why the FBI never notified the Gang of Eight about the most significant counterintelligence investigation against a presidential candidate in modern American history. That's the one case you don't notify Congress about? They are in a panic about this. Was that the insurance policy the whole time, the dossier, to provide some kind of legal cover for an operation that should have never been started in the first place? Is that the question we need to ask? I think so.
You know, Dan, we're going to pull that tape. It's a great point. I think something very much worth listening about if it was never notified. The other thing dominating headlines is Fire and Fury, this gossip book about the president trying to undermine a sense of his mental health. Well, we're learning more about a Yale psychiatrist who met with Democratic congressmen about the president's health. So Yale psychiatrist Dr. Brandy X. Lee briefed members of Congress in early December, so early last month, about Trump's mental fitness. So you literally have Democrats meeting with psychiatrists who've never assessed this president to determine whether he is fit to be in office. How far are they going here?
You know, Pete, I'm astonished by this. I mean, you want to talk about a breach of professional ethics. You know, I was not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I did go to graduate school for neuropsychology, psychology, and behavioral learning, so I have some experience in the arena. But, gosh, I mean, how unethical to do this. But let me tell you what the real plan is here by the Democrats. The Democrats were taken off guard by the passing of the tax cuts. You may say, what does that have to do with his mental fitness? Follow me here. They did not expect these things to pass. Now that they've passed, and Trump's approval ratings are moving up and he has political capital, impeachment now is almost off the table entirely. They need a backup plan. Their backup plan is the 25th Amendment, which would remove the president of office because of physical or mental incapacity. It's farcical, it's laughable, but it speaks to the desperation of these Looney Tune Democrats that are so desperate to get Trump out of office.
But yeah, if the resistance didn't work, if other forms of impeachment don't work, they're looking for, because if they capture the House, you say impeachment's off the table, but if they were to win the House, you still think they're going there, right? They're going after him.
Oh, 100%, 1,000%. If the Democrats win the House, they are so deranged about Trump, Pete. This all ties together. Listen, this is not conspiracy theory junk. Everything I'm telling you can look up yourself. They need him out of there desperately because they need to cover up the nonsense that's been going on for the past 8 years. They need him out. And if they can't get him out on impeachment, they'll try this 25th Amendment thing. But here's the critical thing. They can't do any of this without depleting his political bank account. And his political bank account is going up, not down.
Dan, you've just delivered devastating news to Democrat Congressman Al Green. But thanks for coming on and talking to us this morning.
Appreciate it. Have a great Sunday.
Thank you, Dan.
Got it, guys.
All right, turning now to a few more headlines. The winter storm in the Northeast causing chaos at New York's JFK Airport. For the third straight day, they just can't get it in line. Thousands of travelers stranded following more than 6,000 flight cancellations or delays. Two planes colliding on the tarmac amid the chaos. The wing of a China Southern plane struck the tail of a Kuwait Airways plane. No one was hurt. The massive air hub has been struggling to recover after shutting down Thursday afternoon. The airport is blaming the issues on a surge in rescheduled flights combined with severe storm damage to equipment. Come on, JFK, get it together. All right, Amazon appears to be deleting reviews of Michael Wolff's tell-all book about the Trump White House. Get this. The company reportedly keeping a careful eye on comments for the book Fire and Fury. They didn't keep a careful eye on comments about my book. You could write whatever you want. Not this one.
I was one of them.
You probably were. In September, Amazon removed hundreds of one-star reviews for Hillary Clinton's memoir, What Happened. A spokesman for Amazon tells Quartz the site is deleting reviews that violate its guidelines, or they're just protecting liberals. We'll let you decide. And the U.S. Army's official Twitter account appears to like a tweet mocking President Trump. Actress Mindy Kaling's tweet seen in the like column on the Army's page. It features Kaling's character from The Office saying, quote, "You guys, I'm like really smart now." An apparent dig at the president's Saturday morning tweets. It's not clear if an employee running the account liked the tweet or if it was hacked into. The tweet is no longer there. We are reaching out to the Army for further comment, or was it someone who accidentally hit a like from their personal account, but it was the Army account? Who knows?
It's tough to keep up with all this. Who liked what? I'll tell you.
Too much liking. All right, moving on. The wife of the Pulse nightclub terrorist says she knew about his plans for the horrific attack, but did nothing. Our next guest says this may be worse than the attack itself.
And how do you celebrate when your team doesn't win one game? Well, in Cleveland, it's with a parade of sadness.
It's a loser parade.
Then you stand.
Welcome back to Fox and Friends. Well, newly released FBI documents revealing the wife of the Pulse nightclub gunman knew about his horrifically planned attack. The statement, written by an FBI agent and signed by Noor Salman, states, quote, "I knew on Saturday when Omar left the house about 5 p.m. that this was the time that he was going to do something bad. I knew when he left the house he was going to Orlando to attack the Pulse nightclub."
Here to react, Muslim scholar and author of In the Land of Invisible Women, Dr. Kanta Ahmed. Dr. Ahmed, thank you. I just want to get right to this. Does this prove, and of course, Noor Salman is being charged, does this prove finally that she was guilty of material support for an act of terror?
To the documents I've seen, which are apparently her own record of the events, certainly seem to suggest that. I find it so abhorrent that she had many opportunities to report or call for help or notify authorities. And I think morally she's as implicated in the killings as her husband.
How common is this for a spouse or a loved one of a terrorist to have knowledge of one of these acts beforehand and not do anything?
I think it's probably more common than we know, and we're beginning to realize in the West that the female jihadist is as much of a threat as a male jihadist. She may not be herself a jihadist, but she certainly was complicit. And I feel she's morally responsible, not only as an American, she was American-born, I'm American, but as a Muslim. She's Muslim, and Islam demands that you bear witness, including against the members of your own family, when you can prevent injustice. So she's gravely failed in that respect.
Sort of a rudimentary reading of Islam would also say, well, women are taught to be submissive to their husbands, especially in a jihadist context. So did she feel obligated to withhold that information because her husband was going to carry this out?
Certainly she could be afraid. Her lawyers have said she was in an abusive marriage, that she didn't have access to funds until right before the attack when he put her on his various bank accounts. But Islam is very clear. Men and women have the same duty to support the authorities, to have a duty to the society in which we live, and to expose injustice. That's documented in the Quran. That's what the Prophet Muhammad says. She's really failed in an Islamic duty.
What role are women playing in ISIS, in either joining as fighters, or what role are they saying? Are you seeing an increased role? Or what's your take on that?
So recently, Europe has been struggling with the return of females that were married to ISIS fighters or themselves jihadists, recruiting. We know from Israeli research of female suicide operatives or would-be operatives that they recruit, they collaborate, they conceal, they themselves inculcate in their children the desire, and they also may personally be perpetrators too.
Let me take you just back real quick to your saying, you know, the obligation to the Quran. And that is the problem, Dr. Ahmed, is we've seen this in San Bernardino. We've now seen it in Florida, in Orlando. I covered both of those for the channel. And what you saw were communities, and in this case, the woman, the wife, not coming forward. How do we stop this going forward? How do you get the message into these communities to encourage the wives to speak out?
I think it's a twofold approach. Number one is United States authorities should see this as an opportunity for very harsh punishment. Of course, she's entitled to a legal defense in this country, but she needs to be made an example of. We will not tolerate this kind of collaboration in these communities. But number two, Muslims like me, but also Muslim scholars and Muslim leaders have to remind Muslim communities this is a central principle of Islam.
We got to call it out.
We got to leave it there, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you so very much for joining us today. It's the Super Bowl of Technology. The Consumer Electronics Show kicks off tomorrow in Las Vegas. Kurt, the cyber guy, is live with a preview of the must-see gadgets of the year. That's coming up next. You don't want to miss it.
Good morning and welcome back. It's considered the Super Bowl of the tech world.
The Consumer Electronics Show is about to kick off in Las Vegas with nearly 4,000 companies showing off the latest and greatest technology and gadgets that soon everyone will want to get their hands on.
And here to give us a preview live from the Las Vegas Strip is Kurt Knutson, the cyber guy. Kurt, good morning. And you got some cool stuff for us.
Griff, good morning to you.
Hey.
I do. You know, Pete, Lisa, good morning to you guys. Happy New Year. By the way, Las Vegas really needed this kind of a boost, and thank you, boost into the economy here, and also just to resurge after the recovery of last year's massacre. And cab drivers already saying that attendance expected to be about 1.7 million people here. It's a lot. I'm sorry, 170,000 people here, but we've got 2.6 million square feet of electronic real estate to cover here. Expect this year to see a lot of new stuff related to your home. But first, the TVs that we've grown to really love, thinner, bigger, more clear, that is now going to come down in price. We're not going to see giant leap forward in technology inside of it. We're just going to see the prices coming down this year. And then also out with VR, virtual reality, and in with AR, augmented reality. Remember Pokemon, that was a game that sort of kicked that off earlier last year, and we're going to see a lot of that here at the show. Electronic cars galore this year out here in Las Vegas. We're expected to see Ford CEO, and James Hackett, he will come out here, and he'll be the first keynote that's not a big tech head to launch CES here this week. And mobility, the key word there, and a Chinese automaker called Byton will be showing off their smart intuitive vehicle, which is going to be, everybody's buzzing about it. They want to see what's going on with the Chinese competing with the U.S. market with automobiles coming up. Lyft will be giving out semi-autonomous drives around town here. And then smart home devices are going to go a lot bigger this year, especially what you're going to want to look for all throughout 2018 are smart home devices, those things, those light bulbs and switches that work on Alexa, they work on Google Home, and they work on Apple. And then finally, we're seeing a lot of health. Yeah.
Hey, listen, we got to leave it there, but that is amazing. We look forward to it. If you can, bring us some of those gadgets back if they give out freebies, all right?
And enjoy Vegas.
Yes.
We'll be hunting them down for you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Kurt.
Appreciate it.
Coming up, David Bossie, Sarah Carter, and Governor Mike Huckabee all here.